Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome, welcome our online audience by way of Mevo. Come on, welcome our Facebook audience right now. Come on, give it up for those that are watching online. And we're glad you're here at Simchat Yeshua. We're getting into a message for Parashat Chukat, which is called Either I'm a Victim or I'm a Victor. This is coming from Bamidbar, the book of Numbers 19:1 through 22:1. And also we have our Judges passage, chapter 11, 1 through 33, and John 3, 9 through 21. It's a great read that correlates with the Torah portion this week. We want to say official Bruchim Habaim, welcome to all of those that are here today and our first-time guests. And we had a wonderful move of the Spirit, and in fact we couldn't even finish our Torah service. We left the Torah out and opened the doors of the ark open because we're saying it's an open heaven, isn't it? Yes. How many felt the presence of the Lord this morning? Amen. The Spirit of God moved mightily in this house. So we want to definitely welcome those that are watching online, and we're glad that you've come today if you're here in the sanctuary. And how many are ready for a little Jewish food for the soul? Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a look at Taste of Torah, and we're going to start with Numbers 21, verse number 1. And it says, in the Tree of Life version, it says, in the first month, the entire community of Bnei Israel, which are the sons of Israel, arrived at the wilderness of Zin. The people stayed at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Talk to me. Miriam died and was buried. Look what the Torah says in the very next line. Right after Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water. So in other words, after Miriam died and was buried, there was no water for the community. What's the first thing that happened after Miriam dies and there's no water? What's the first thing that Israel does? So they assembled against Moses and Aaron. The people quarreled with Moses, saying, if only we had died when our brothers died before Adonai. Isn't that interesting? That as soon as something goes wrong, we find a leader to complain about. Not just complain to, but to complain about. It's amazing that people actually, in the midst of a problem, find someone to blame because of their situation. We always have to find a leader to blame, because somebody's got to be at fault, right? You ask the question, what happened to the window? Well, I don't know, the window got broke. Well, it got broke, the one that's bad English, let alone the fact that it got broke, but you don't know who broke it. So no one wants to take ownership in a situation like that, right? But the window got broke. Well, there's no water, so who are we going to blame? Well, the only leaders we have left after Miriam dies is Moses and Aaron. Now, we always have talked about in the past the well of Miriam, how some even put a special cup of water out when they have the 4 cups of wine for Passover, to not only remind us of coming out with the leadership of Moses and Aaron, and even the extra cup of Elijah for the future coming of Elijah before Messiah comes, but a cup for Miriam, and it's a cup of water. A lot of Sephardic communities do that. And this well of Miriam had stopped, if you will, because she's the first one that brings us through water. The Red Sea, the Reed Sea, Yam Suf, and we also see that they grumble and complain. Look at verse 3. The people quarreled with who? So the people are not just quarreling to Moses and Aaron, they're quarreling about Moses and Aaron. But it's funny how they go to them and quarrel. They argue, they try to fight. Have you ever had someone come to you purposely to try to fight you? Yes. I mean, you can even see in the tone of their voice, the look in their eye, you can already tell by the way they entreat you, the way they come to you, they're already ready for an argument. How many can see that coming a mile ahead? You just see that coming your way. You already see an argument coming. And you almost tense up because you're already feeling like, uh-oh, somebody's not happy. Because when you see someone, they're smiling, they're easy to be entreated, it's easy to come up to them, you can see that a mile away too. You can see a person's coming glad to the house of the Lord. But there's nothing like having an angry member show up. And they're angry. You think they would have stayed home if they're angry. But no, they're going to bring their anger to the assembly and make sure everybody knows I'm upset. Really, I thought today is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in. I thought the joy of the Lord was our strength. You don't realize your frown is taking away your strength. You got to turn that frown upside down and get the perspective right side up again, and then you can have some strength. So they quarreled with Moses, and this is what they said. Notice the dramatic statement. If only we had died when our brothers had died before the Lord, before Adonai. Isn't that pretty drastic? One day without water, actually 1 hour without water, we're already saying we probably should have died. Have you ever known anybody in your family like that? Now, if it's you, just pretend like it's still your uncle. Come on, go ahead. That family member that as soon as something goes wrong, oh my gosh, it's happening again. What's happening again? It happened back in 1902, No. Oh my goodness, my stock markets, everything's crashing, what's going to happen? It's going to be the Great Depression all over again. It's funny how people always look to the past to figure out their future. But how many know if God's taking you to the Promised Land doesn't look like Egypt. Egypt's in the lowland, Promised Land is in the highland, Jerusalem is up top. You got to go up to the mountain of the Lord. You got to go higher in the way you think, because God's ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. That means He is highly exalted and far above. Say, God is exalted. He's high above. All our problems, all our situations. In fact, He's above looking down at this situation thinking, there they go again. He's probably thinking, I should have just got Moses to agree with me to destroy them at Mount Sinai. If they're going to argue all the way through the wilderness for 40 years, that's what got them in that trouble in the first place, was complaining. Complaining that they couldn't receive the promise that God had given them. So if we look at verse number 4, interesting, in verse number 4, it says, eventually it'll say, I need somebody back there, please. Numbers 20, verse 4, it says, now why have you brought the community of Adonai into this what? Wilderness. So they're not in Egypt, but they're in the wilderness. For us and our livestock to die here. Why have you brought us from Egypt to bring us to this evil place? A place without grain, fig, grapevine, pomegranate, and there's no water to drink. So here they're complaining that God's in a land flowing with milk and honey, a land where there would be wheat and barley, there would be the grapes and the figs, the pomegranates, the dates for honey. There would be all these things that they would have, olives for olive oil. We have all of the things that God promised, and here we see none of them in the wilderness. Well, how many know that God never promised that the wilderness would have these things? God gave them manna from heaven. He gave them the bread from heaven. He gave them a quail storm when they complained about not having meat. He gave them water from a rock, and that was supposed to be sufficient because the manna, if you received it the right way, tasted like honey cakes. How many know that sounds like biscuits and honey and butter to me? I don't know about you, but that sounds like some pancakes. That sounds like all kinds of croissants. That kind of sounds like a lot of good stuff. Lots of butter. Lots of butter. Chema. Butter. And that's the chalav is milk. Chema is butter. And so there was a lot of that flowing stuff from heaven. And the water was probably so sweet, the Father chose to contrast it to bitter waters that He made sweet. And so the water was sweet, so they should have been satisfied. But it's funny, depending on your attitude, that's what was your appetite. If your attitude was bad, your appetite was bad. It tasted bad because you had a bad attitude. If you take a person to the restaurant, they have a bad attitude, everything that comes their way from the chef, it's going to ultimately be tasting bad. All right, so we see that it says in verse 5, why have you brought us from Egypt to bring us to this evil place, a place without grain, fig, grapevine, pomegranate, there's no water. Okay. So, if we compare this to the first time they complained, when the spies were sent out, we know that in Numbers 14:2 it says, and all the children of Israel complained against Moses and who? Aaron. So this was not the first time Israel complained. In fact, if you find a complainer, trust me, it's not the first time they ever complained. Majority of the time, if you complain once, you complain twice, you complain 3 times, 3 strikes you're out, right? So we see that complaining is not only habitual, but it is contagious. It is an epidemic disease in a congregation. It's just as evil as gossip, because gossip not only tears down the person, while complaining seems to only complain about the situation, but gossip tears down the integrity of that person in the eyes of others that previously honored them. True. You dishonor someone when you gossip. Now, I want to show you the latter part of this in verse number 3. It says, why has the Lord brought us to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives, our children should become what? Victims. Now how many know they could be saying that their wives or children would be victims unless they felt like what? Victims. Would it not have been better for us to return to where? Egypt. So they said to one another, let us select a leader and return where? To Egypt. You know, you can always find leaders to take you backwards if that's where you want to go. But if you really want to go forward, you find a leader with forward progress. Don't go back to the same old situation if you want to go forward, because that would be going backwards. If the Lord is taking you from one spot to another, keep moving with God. Even if the new place called the wilderness doesn't look like the promise He promised you, trust me, it will get better. In fact, maybe God brought you for such a time as this to make it better. Because you can't make your new location look like your old location. If you're still smelling for leeks and garlic when you're supposed to be tasting for milk and honey, how many know you'll never get the milk and honey if you're still looking for garlic and leeks? Garlics and leeks are great, but they're not sweet like milk and honey. Milk and honey is cheesecake. It is dessert. It is like Lebanon with honey on top. It's basically the milk that's made into a yogurt. They drizzle honey, and it's a way to say, not only will you have the basic staples of the 7 species, but you're going to have dessert too. Amen. That's what it means. You're going to have the best of the best of the best in this land flowing with milk and honey. You're going to have cheesecake. And Jews love to have cheesecake on special holidays. Amen? Shavuot and Tabernacles, Sukkot, we know. So, if we look at verse 27 later in the chapter, we see that God says, how long shall I bear this evil congregation who complain against who? They complain against me. So when you complain against God's leader, you complain against the leader's Lord. When you complain against the leader, you're also complaining against his Lord. You're not really complaining about the person. You're complaining about God who put the person over you. Here's the thing. If you don't like what the Lord put over you, then you know you can always leave. But if you know that you know that you know that God brought you to a certain place, you might as well buckle up, stay seated, get planted, get rooted, get grounded, and find where your hands can be put to the plow and do what God's called you to do. Because if there's work to be done, guess what? If God takes you to a garden that's not cultivated very well, maybe that's why God brought you there. To cultivate something that's never been. And maybe God brought you from where you were to where you need to be, because He knows that where you were, you learned a few things. And maybe the new location needs what you have. So don't look for others to have what you had. Look for what you had to become where you're at. So that you can take what you know and get someone else and show them how to do what you used to do before, or what others have done for you. Maybe you're supposed to do it for somebody else. For instance, we need a thriving children's ministry here. Because mishpacha, families, have children. And the only way they're going to trust their family to get planted here is if there's a kids department here. Crazy thing is, it's not that we don't love children. It's that we don't have people that feel like they're fed enough to want to be relieved a week, maybe in a month, to go serve in the kids' ministry. But guess what? 3 weeks in and 1 week out, that's great. Sit one, serve one. I mean, you know, you got to think in the mentality that I can't always be fed the Word of God. I also have to feed the Word of God. So sometimes you've got to be willing to say, I'm willing to serve maybe even once a month. I'm willing to teach the children. Because everything God's taught me for the previous 3 weeks, I'm going to put it into what I'm teaching the children, because the next generation needs to know what we know. Amen. And I got a couple more amens out there. Amen. Now, notice this. You can find a leader that will take you backwards, but you need to find a leader that will take you forward. So, we see that in verse 27, it says, how long will I bear with this evil congregation who complain against me? I've heard the what? Now, some of you think that you need to tell everybody your complaints because God didn't hear what you were complaining about. Trust me, God heard it the first time you complained. But the problem is you didn't wait for the answer in prayer. You only told God what you're mad about. You haven't told God, God, give me an answer, a solution to what I'm frustrated about. Because if you stay long enough, He'll show you. He might even show you who to go to get the job done. You've got to be willing to be a team player and a problem solver. In fact, I always like when people don't come with me with problems, but they come with solutions. Hey, I know we have this situation that's a challenge right now, but I have a solution. What do you think about this? Hey, you know, I was thinking the same thing. In fact, I was even thinking we can take your idea, let's put it together, let's even make a bigger and better idea. Because maybe we all have a piece of the puzzle, we all need to add our piece. Amen? So notice in verse 29 it says, the carcasses of you who have complained against me shall fall in this wilderness, all of you who were numbered according to the entire number from 20 years old and what? Above. So 20 and up. 20 and above are the age of military warriors. Those enlisted in the army were told that they were going to not only fight the enemy, because they left Egypt armed and dangerous with full attire on for battle, but the older, wiser ones were supposed to defend the younger. So what happens when the older, wiser ones that are supposed to defend the younger are afraid like their children themselves? You've got to have leaders that are going to stand and fight. You can't have people that are going to serve in the army and be afraid of a giant. Trust me, David wasn't afraid of the giant, Goliath. We need some more Davids in the house, because Saul killed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. But it didn't start with tens of thousands. It started with the lion. It started with the bear. And if God could do it with a lion and a bear, He can do it with a giant. There's no difference with God. Amen? Because God's bigger than all of them. Okay, so let's take a look at verse number 30. It says, except for Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, the son of Nun. Yeah, I said Nun, not Nun, but Nun. That's a Hebrew letter, right? It's a fish hook. Probably comes from a line of fishermen. Joshua, the son of Nun, you shall by no means enter the land which I swore I would make you dwell in. No one would dwell in that land except for Joshua and Caleb in that generation. He says, but your little ones, whom you said would be what? See, the sad thing is, as parents, we have to watch what we declare over our children. We can't act like a victim, because if we act like victims, our children will feel like victims. We have to know that we're not victims, but we're victors. We have the victory, right? And that victim mentality will go right into our children. If we talk fear, they will talk fear. If mommy and daddy are afraid, the children will be afraid. Can I get an amen? Amen. So the Lord rebuked them for what they were saying about their kids. He says, you know, your little ones, your children, that you said would be victims? I never said you'd be a victim. You said it. Out of your mouth, you declared, our children, our wives are going to be victims. And this is the sad thing is, he says, the very ones you call victims, I'm going to bring in. And they're going to know the land that you have despised. But as for you, your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, meaning that a whole generation would die out. Now, in verse number 33 it says, and your sons shall be what? Shepherds in the wilderness 40 years. You know what we need in the wilderness situation? We need more shepherds. We need more people that are going to keep the sheep from wandering off. I can't be the only shepherd in the house. I need multiple shepherds here, making sure that even the sheep that I don't know are missing, they notice they're missing, and they reach those sheep. How many know we need more shepherds in the kingdom of God? We need people shepherding the sheep. He told the elders, shepherd the sheep in the Gospels and in the book of Acts. It says you're going to have them shepherd the sheep for 40 years. He says, and bear the brunt of your infidelity. Sadly enough, the leaders that have been unfaithful in the previous generation, the younger generation has to bear the brunt of it. It's really sad. Because young men like myself, when I was growing up, when a leader didn't lead me in the way I was to go, how many know it's because they were not willing to father the next generation? So I had to go from congregation to congregation looking for a spiritual father, for someone to father me. It's funny because I didn't find a spiritual father in a lot of the congregations I was going to. I found pastors, but I didn't find fathers. Until I went to a congregation, and this might be strange, but I found a spiritual mother that was willing to be like Deborah a spiritual mother to me when there were no fathers in my generation. There were a lot of preachers, a lot of great preachers, a lot of pastors, a lot of great pastors. I didn't know any rabbis at the time, at least any ones that I could communicate to. But in the Christian world, there was one woman that was willing to be a spiritual mother to me. And I remember as a spiritual mom, she confirmed the gift that was in me. She said, I've heard a lot of male pastors, older and wiser than you, but I love listening to you speak because, young man, there's something about you that's just different. And I can tell you that because I know you're not going to get big-headed, you're not going to allow it to get to your head, because I know you're humble, I know you're shy, but I need to tell you, you're bold. Because when you speak the Word of God, you're not yourself anymore. The Spirit of God takes over. Yes, I was a shy kid, believe it or not. I got filled with the Holy Spirit, that shyness went away. The Spirit of God took over. And I got changed at a youth camp at Bethel in the Hills, and it changed my life forever, and I was filled with the Holy Spirit, and the gifts of God began to develop in my life. Along with the gifts of God, I had to learn later on the character had to go with it. And that's the harder thing for a minister to learn. It's easy to have gifts. Gifts are given, but fruits are grown. Character is developed. You see, leaders are not born more than they're made. God still has His hand on me, making me, molding me to the image I'm supposed to be, like the image of His Son. So it says, for 40 years. Now watch this. This is the dilemma of the wilderness. Say, here's the dilemma. Tell the other neighbor, say, here's the drama. According to the number of days in which you spied out the land, 40 days for each day you shall bear your guilt 1 year. Namely, 40 years, and you shall know my rejection. In other words, for every day that you complain, God's going to multiply it to a year of rejection. Because God will not accept the words coming out of our mouth unless it's His word. Because it's what thus saith the Lord, not what we say about our situation. It's what God says about our situation. Don't let one day of complaining turn into a whole year of regret. Because we started the year speaking wrong. Not speaking His word. We didn't trust God. We trusted the circumstance. We let situations determine who we think we are. I'm not determined by my past mistakes. I'm not labeled by my lack of character in the past. I'm actually labeled by my Lord, who says, you're my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. And if you let me mold you, I'll make you into the image of my Son. And when people see you, they won't see you. They'll see my Son in you. How many know each one of us has had the hand of our master as a potter to clay, mold us and squeeze some stuff out of us. In fact, go right in the center of where our junk is and literally scoop that junk out of our clay to make a vessel that He could use for His honor. Amen? Every single one of us. You might as well say yes and amen to that, because He's doing it. If He hasn't done it, He's about to. He's going to mold your life. He's going to mold your life. And so I don't want to spend another day complaining. Because this is what happens. If we go back one chapter, we see this is what happens to complainers. He says, there we saw the what? Giants. The descendants of who? Anak, the Anakim. And it says they came from the giants. Meaning this is a generation of giants. And it says, we were like what? Grasshoppers in our own sight. So we were in their sight. So I added this. It's not your outline. You can fill it in. But this is important to understand. The way you see yourself is the way others see you. Especially your enemy. You see, a bully never picks on someone who knows who they are. They pick on someone who questions their authority or their power and feels that they can push them around. So here's kind of the formula to look at. There's big G, God. The next smaller G, the giants. But here's the smallest of G's. It's not the gangster, it's the grasshopper. You see, you need to realize that when you're focused too much on giants, you forget there's a bigger G, God. And the way you see yourself is the way your giants see you. If you could see God bigger than your giants, then the enemy will actually be the grasshopper and not you. One squash of God's big foot, and the enemy is defeated. Amen? Now, let's go to Deuteronomy 1:7, because here's a secret in the text. He says, Adonai will cause your enemies who rise up against you to be what? struck down before you. This was the promise of God. In other words, you don't have to be fearful of being a victim, you, your children, your wife. You don't have to be fearful because I gave you a promise that I will cause your enemies who rise up against you. Somebody lift your hand and thank the Lord right now. Your enemies who rise up against you to be struck down before you. In other words, David, your Goliath will be struck down right before your very eyes. The moment you trust me enough to take down your giant, I will take them down. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. They will come out against you one way, and they will flee before you how many? 7 ways. Wow, he must be pretty scared if he flees 7 ways. That means the enemy's even confused. Which way should we go? Which way should we go? They just start fleeing in all different ways. They don't even flee unified. They flee in all different directions. They come against you one way, unified. But when they flee, God will break up their unity. You know he did the Tower of Babel? He broke up their unity because their unity was used for the wrong situation. So when you see that God will defeat your enemy, you realize that really you're not cursed, you're blessed. Adonai will command the blessing on you. Would you just receive that today? The Lord says, I command the blessing on you. I command the blessing. I don't just command the doing, I command the blessing. See, if we continue to keep doing, God will keep blessing. Amen. He says, do what I ask you to do. Obey my commands, and I will command my blessing on you. In your barns and in every undertaking of your hand, he will bless you. He will bless you. He says, in the land Adonai your God is giving you, Adonai will establish you as a holy people, a set-apart people for himself, just as he swore to you, if you, what? Keep the mitzvot, the commandment of Adonai, the commandments of the Lord your God, and walk in his ways. So he tells us to keep his what? Commandments. Now, keep that in mind because that's going to show up when we get to the Brit Hadashah. Look at verse number 10. It says, then all the people of the earth will see that you are what? What did we learn last week? He not only calls us by name, he calls us by his name and says, we're his. We belong to him. He says, then all the people will see that you are called by the name of Adonai, and they will stand in awe. People will look at you and stand in awe. Wow, you must really believe in that God you say you believe in, that saved you, that delivered you. You must really believe. Yeah, no, I don't just believe. Look at the evidence. Nobody can argue a changed life. I said nobody can argue a changed life. You don't need to preach at people how new you are. You need to just walk it out and live it and let people see that you're called by the name of the Lord, and that they will stand in awe and say, I don't know what God did for you. Maybe he can do it for me, but I see the change. It's awesome what I see on your life. I saw you a year ago and you're not the same person you were a year ago. He says they're going to see that Adonai will make you overflow in what? Prosperity, starting in the fruit of your womb, the offspring of your livestock, and the produce of your soil on the land Adonai swore to give you. Notice it's always on that land flowing with milk and honey. Verse 12, Adonai will open for you his good what? Storehouse. That means a heavenly storehouse. The heavens will give rain for your land in its season. Again, the land will give rain in its season, and to bless all the work of your hand. So notice God blesses the work of your hand because he blesses the land. The land is already flowing with milk and honey. All you have to do is harvest it. See, if you will stay in the right place, you'll harvest the right harvest. Stop running to another land that has more water. Start asking God to rain down in your season of where you're at. If you're feeling dry, ask God to rain down in your season, because we should have no dry season. No dry season. We should trust God that sometimes there's sowing time to plant, and there's other times to harvest, but in between is the rain. Because in between sowing and reaping is rain. And God will reign in your season. Look what verse 12, the latter part says, you will lend to many nations, but you will not what? Borrow. It's interesting that Israel is lending their technology to nations. Yeah. Most of us, our cell phones, the ability to even have a camera, most of the technology in our smartphones is from Israel. They're lending their wisdom to nations. But you will not borrow. Do you know it's sad that America has become a debtor nation, that we owe debt like crazy? It's not just you owe debt, your nation owes debt. That's why they got to get more money out of you, because they got to pay back. We used to be one nation under God. But the dollar bill we wrote it on overpowered us because of our greed. When we forgot God in the land that we were living in, the harvest dried up. The vats were no longer flowing. The storehouses were empty. And instead of the house of God being a storehouse, we look for the government to be a storehouse. Trust me, the government doesn't have what God has. If you need it, God's got it. If you don't have it, you don't need it. I know that's not good grammar, but it sure sounds good to me. It says, Adonai will make you the... Talk to me. Adonai will make you the... And not the... So why you tucked, turned around with your head, your tail between your legs, your head between your legs. How's that saying go? I think I said it right. It says you're the head and not the tail. See, sometimes we feel on the tail end of everything. But really God says, I made you the head and not the tail. We're supposed to be above and not what? Below. King James says beneath. If you listen to the mitzvot of Adonai, there's those commandments again. That Adonai your God, that I am commanding you today, careful to do them. So here's the model that we need to focus on. The model is we need to live with a victor mindset and not a victim mindset. I'm going to show you something. What's the only difference between the word victor and victim? I'm or. So it's I'm a victim or a victor. I'm, the last two letters of victim, you either keep saying I'm a victim or I'm a victor. So always remember that the only difference between victor and victim is I'm or. And you make the choice. Either I'm a victim or a victor. It's going to be the way you're going to remember that, because God wants you above and never below. You should never be under the enemy's feet. He should be under yours. Oh, somebody got that. Now I'm going to close out the Torah portion with chapter 20 of verse 4 of Deuteronomy 20. It says, "For the Lord your God will be what? He will be what? With you. If he's with you, he will be what? Fighting on your behalf against who? Your enemies, in order to grant you what? Victory." So how can you be a victim if you have the victory? The only way to not live as a victim is for God to grant you victory, which takes you out of victim mentality to a victor mindset or mentality. So now that we know, we have a choice. We have a choice. Either I'm a victim or a victor. We go to the prophet reading and have a little nash from the Navi, and we're going to go to the prophet Isaiah chapter 63, verse number 4. It says, "For a day of vengeance was in my heart. My year of redemption has come. I looked, but there was no one to help." How sad. Isaiah 59 says there was no intercessor. There was no one to help. I was amazed. Ezekiel said there was no one to stand in the gap. He says, I was amazed, but no one was assisting. You know what's sad? That on a Shabbat you look around and when you need help, sometimes you can't find it. Because a lot of people come to the house of God to be served. Say they're to serve. You know when God will trust us with more people to serve? Is when we choose to serve and not be served. It's not about us being the first in the oneg line. It's about actually serving people. I know I always get like kind of rebuked when I want to like serve or clean or, "No, Rabbi, you can't do that." I said, "Why can't I? No one's going to rob me from my blessing. I want to do this. It's in my heart to do it. I want to do it." "Oh, no, Rabbi, you can't do that." "Well, I know. I need to pray and I need to teach the Word of God." I get that's one of my major roles. But when I'm done with that, it's nothing wrong with taking a broom and sweeping. There's nothing wrong with passing out cups of Kiddush cups. There's nothing wrong with passing out the food of the vine. There's nothing wrong with serving or greeting, or there's nothing wrong with any of that. Just because you're above doesn't mean you can't humble yourself. Because if you humble yourself, He will continue to lift you up. So it says, I looked and there was no one to help. I was amazed, but no one was assisting. My own arm won victory for me. My own who? My own arm. Notice the capital. My own arm won victory for me. My wrath upheld me. So the question is, what does God mean when he says in Isaiah 63:5, my own arm? Well, we have to go back 10 chapters to Isaiah 53 verse 1 that says, who has believed our report? To whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Amen. Verse 5 says, it's a he. The arm of the Lord is a he. For he was pierced or wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed or bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our shalom was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. Maybe this is why the Lord showed up so miraculously during our Torah service. He says, don't you know I'm in this? I'm here to heal. Yeshua the Messiah fulfills the Torah and the prophets to heal, to restore, to redeem, to bring shalom and to bring peace. And that's exactly what he wanted to do. You know, when Yeshua read about the leper, all of a sudden he would heal the lepers after service. When God would talk in his Torah about the woman that maybe has an issue that's longer than a normal flow of blood, an issue of blood, it said that she'd be unclean. Guess what? An unclean woman came with an issue of blood for not 30 days or longer, but for 12 years. And every physician couldn't help her except the great physician. And so guess what? Yeshua showed up to be that fulfillment of Adonai, who is our Rophe, our healer. So Isaiah 40 verse 10 assures us, don't be afraid, because I am what? He said, if I'm with you, I'll fight your battles. I'll fight your enemies. So he says, don't be afraid. What are you going to be afraid about? He also said, don't be anxious. Now let me see the hands of those who will admit, every once in a while you get a little anxious. And every once in a while you let anxiety grip you. It is a command of the Lord, he says, don't be afraid, don't fear, and don't be anxious. So look in the mirror every once in a while, just tell yourself, Brian, don't be anxious, don't be afraid. Come on, tell yourself. You need to remind yourself of what the Holy Spirit's reminding you of, that his Torah and his prophets tell you, don't be afraid, be very bold and courageous. If I'm with you, I'm fighting for you. God is fighting for us. Right? Some of you know that song. Don't be afraid because I'm with you. Don't be anxious because I am your God. Come on, say, he is my God. He is my light. He is my salvation. Whom shall I be afraid? He's the Lord, the strength of my life. Whom shall I fear? My God is with me. He's my God. He's my Lord. Who is this giant, you uncircumcised Philistine? Who are you? Now, wait a minute. Philistine. You know what the modern translation of Philistine is? No. They called Palestina in the Latin, Palestine. That never was the official name of Israel. No. But it was called by the Romans as a slam to the Jew. It's not your land, it's the Philistines' land, but now it's our land. We own it. So we'll call it what we want to call it to slam you, that it was the Philistines in the land before you were there. Yeah. But how many know it was never their land called Philistina? It was not Palestine, it was Israel. Yes. So God owns the land and he gives it to who he wants. Yes. So the enemy was kicked out of the land, the Philistine was kicked out of the land, and God said, it's my land. So don't be afraid, don't be anxious. Why? Because I keep strengthening you, and I am truly helping you, and I am surely upholding you with my victorious right hand. To whom is the arm of the Lord, Yeshua the Messiah, been revealed? He is the arm that's outstretched that delivered Israel from Egypt. Amen. With an outstretched arm. Yes. The arm of the Lord. It's Yeshua. He fulfills as the role of Messiah. This passage and Isaiah 53 and Isaiah 63, he fulfills Isaiah 59. He fulfills the words of the Torah and the words of the prophets. Amen. He is the Messiah. He is the victorious right hand. Now, if we know that's the case, and Yeshua is fighting for us, then we can take the words of David, his forefather, to heart. Yes. Look what he said in Psalm 10:10. The victim is what? This is why victim mentality is so bad. You feel crushed. How many of you admit in the past you have felt crushed before? Well, you didn't realize that was the enemy trying to make you a victim. So he sent some issues in your life, some problems your way, so he can crush you to make you feel like a victim. Now, I need you to choose today. Either I'm a victim, or I'm a victor. Say that. I'm a victor. Say it like you believe it. I'm a victor. Say, I have the victory. So therefore, I'm a victor. I'm not a victim. Trust me, I know it happened. But that's what happened in the past. You are no longer controlled by what happened to you. You're controlled by who's fighting for you. He says they feel like they're victims because they're crushed down, they're brought down. They fall into mighty claws, like the enemy's got a hold of your life with fear, with timidity, with anxiety. Look what they say in their heart. This is where anxiety starts. This is where fear starts, in the heart. He says in his heart, God has forgotten. Stage 1. Second, he hides his face. Stage 2. He will never see it. So in other words, God either forgot about me, he doesn't see me, or God hid his face from me. He's hiding from me. He chooses not to see me. Third, he'll never see it. How funny. We go from, well, maybe he just forgot. Or maybe he's hiding. Maybe that means he'll never see it. That's how we pray. We pray as if God's forgotten us. We pray if God's forgotten his promises. We pray as if God has forgotten his word. He exalts his word above his own name. God has not forgotten who he is, so therefore he's not forgotten what he said. Amen. Oh, that needed a big amen, if not a tweet on that one. Amen. God has not forgotten who he is, and God has not forgotten the promise he said to you. If he said it, he'll do it. If he spoke it, he will bring it to pass. He has not forgotten. He has not hid his face from us, and he will see it. In fact, he already saw it. Amen. Abraham said, Adonai Yireh is not Job Jireh, but is the Lord your provider. He saw to it, and he will see to it. Arise, Adonai, O Lord, our God, lift up your hand. Well, who's the victorious hand or right hand of God? The arm of the Lord. Messiah. He says, do not forget the afflicted. So Yeshua came for the afflicted, didn't he? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he's anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, to the brokenhearted, to those who are spiritually blind, those that feel like they're in a prison house. That's who Messiah came for. Look at verse 13. He says, why does the wicked one revile God? He says in his heart, now this is what the wicked does. The wicked is the one who comes against the victim. The wicked is the person that hurt you. The wicked one is the person that abused you. The wicked one is the person that abandoned you. The wicked one is the person that stripped you of your integrity, your name, your pride, your ability to trust. The wicked one is the person that tried to crush you. The wicked one is the person that tried to make you feel like you were in his claws. The wicked one wanted to make you a victim. This is what he said. He said in his heart, Lord, you'll never require anything. Oh, trust me, there is a judge in heaven. Aren't you glad that your victimizer has to face one day the great judge of heaven? And that you don't need to fight your battles. He's fighting for you. And he says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So if someone has abandoned you, abused you, neglected you, or hurt you, or forgot about you, trust me, there is a God in heaven. As Whoopi Goldberg said, there is a God. There is a God in color purple. Now that was Oprah Winfrey. Because Whoopi said this, unless you do right by me, everything you do gonna fail. Sometimes I look in the mirror and tell the devil that. Unless you do right by me, everything you do gonna fail. Why? Because there is a God. There is a God. There is a God. Come on, somebody lift your hands and say, there is a God. There is a God in heaven. He's King of kings. He's Lord of lords. He sits high. He looks low. He knows what happened. He saw it, and he is redeeming, restoring, helping, supporting, uplifting. And he is giving answers to questions you've had for years, because he's the solution. He is the answer to your situation. God is God, and him alone. Nobody can replace him. Nobody can move him. And if you trust him, nobody will move you either. Yes. Steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Trust me, there's a God. I'm almost done here. Watch this, watch this. But this is a statement. You got to turn to the back of your outline. We're going to ask a question. I'm going to do a survey right now. We're going to do a survey. We're going to see which one you are. You're going to find out if you're a victim or a victor today. You ready? Question number one, or statement number one. You're going to see how true this is for you. If you feel powerless, you're a what? Victim. Anybody who feels powerless automatically has accepted the mentality, I'm a victim. I can't do anything about it. I am powerless. So, if you feel powerless, you are a what? Victim. You're a victim. Number two, if your circumstances control how you view yourself, you're a what? Victim. Trust me, if you're letting circumstances control how you view yourself, not like a giant killer, but a grasshopper, and that's exactly who you are, and that's how people see you. If you walk around with a victim mentality, people see the victimization all over you. And actually, abusers are attracted to victims. Most of the time, someone who's been molested once gets molested multiple times. Because it's like they got a victim on their forehead written all over them. I don't even care if something that almost killed you happened to you. You can choose today to no longer live that way. Because you don't want to be a magnet to an abuser to come and victimize you again and again and again. Don't have victim on your forehead. Choose to change your mindset and no longer be a victim. Number three, if you feel out of control and can't take accountability or responsibility for your actions, you're a victim. This even means the guy who punches the wall and says, you made me so mad, you made me punch that wall. Did I make you punch my face too? No, it's the truth. How many victimizers out there actually are a victim themselves because they were probably abused and they actually say, you made me do it. The moment you let somebody say that they have the power over you to make you do something, you're a victim. You're a victim of a situation, circumstance, your own anger, you're a victim. Number four, watch this. If you blame other people and make excuses for your situation, or live in denial of your character flaws or your faults, you're a what? Victim. Wow, that's a big one. That's a long list right there. Let's go with number one. How many of us have blamed other people for why we're living the kind of life we're living? Be honest. We do. We blame other people all the time. They blamed Moses and Aaron for no water. Well, they couldn't blame Miriam anymore because she was glad to be with the Lord. How about making excuses for your situation? Well, you don't understand it. You don't know what I went through, and that's why I have the right to have a dirty room. Dirty room, dirty car, dirty life. I mean, basically what happens is it starts at a small percentage, and then it increases, because once you give an excuse in one area, you'll give an excuse in all areas. Watch this. If you don't watch what goes in your mouth, you probably won't watch what comes out of your mouth.
That's true. That's true. Amen.
Clean eating, clean lips. You know what a woman used to say to those that used to curse? She says, and with the same mouth you eat. Dirty in, dirty out.
Yep.
Unclean in, unclean out, right? Third one, how many of us live in denial? My wife always says it like this. Denial is just not another river in Egypt. Get it? The Nile. You'll catch that later. But how many of us live in denial?
Nope.
We don't want to live in denial, especially to our character flaws or faults, because that'll make us a victim. Number five, if you can't take ownership of your decisions and mistakes, you're a what? Victim. You're a victim. Now let's turn this around. Let's figure out how to become a victor.
Yep.
If you feel powerful in Messiah's victory, you're a what?
Victor.
How many can throw your hands up and say, I feel powerful in Messiah's victory? He defeated hell, death, and the grave for you. I feel powerful, not in myself, but in Messiah's victory. I'm a what? Victor. If your circumstances don't control you, label you, or define who you are in Messiah, you're a victor. How many know my identity is in Messiah?
Yes.
It's not in the world or my mistakes. It's in Messiah.
Yes.
Number three, if you allow the Spirit of Messiah to control you, it's the Holy Spirit, and take accountability and responsibility for your actions, then you're a what? You've got to take accountability. You've got to take responsibility. You've got to be accountable to people and responsible to yourself and to God of what your actions are. Number four, if you don't blame other people, make excuses of for your situation, or live in denial of your character flaws or faults, you're a what?
Victor.
You're a victor. Notice it's the same situations,
Yeah.
but I just flipped the script. Instead of allowing them to control me, I don't let them anymore. Number 5, if you take ownership of your decisions, and past mistakes, and allow Messiah to give you complete victory, you're a
Victor.
So God promised you, the people you call victims, your children, they're going to be the actual victors, get the victory against their giants in the promised land, and no longer be grasshoppers in their eyes or their enemies' eyes.
Right.
And we know Yeshua the Messiah is the right hand of the Lord who gives us the victory. He won the victory for us with his victorious arm of deliverance. So now we're going to share the whole Megillah by looking at the Messiah and getting a little taste from the Brit Hadashah, the New Covenant. And I'm going to take you right to how this change happens. How do you go from being a victim to a victor? It happens supernaturally. Look at what Nicodemus asked Yeshua, or spoke to Yeshua about. In John 3, Yochanan 3:2. It says, he came to Yeshua at night and said, Rabbi, what did he call him?
Rabbi.
Here's a Pharisee, a head of the Sanhedrin, calling Yeshua a real rabbi.
Yeah.
Which means what? Teacher. So notice what he says. Rabbi. What did he say?
Rabbi.
Rabbi. We know that you are a...
Teacher.
Because what's a rabbi?
Teacher.
Teacher. Rabbi, we know that you're a teacher and have come from God. For no one can perform these signs, literally signs and wonders, miracles, which you do unless God is with him. Why? Because if he's with you, he's fighting your battles for you. If he's with you, the enemy can't defeat you. If he's with you, you're not a victim, you're a victor. If he's with you, you do miracles.
That's right.
Signs and wonders. Why? Because the Spirit of the Lord comes upon you.
Yes.
Because we know Messiah. Well, he didn't say Messiah, but he said Rabbi. It's his first step. Because before a Jew can accept him as Messiah, he needs to accept him as a rabbi.
Yes.
Amen.
And when you see him as a miracle-working rabbi, then that's ingredients for the Messiah.
Right.
Or the formula for a Messiah. Rabbi plus miracles. Could he be the Messiah?
Right. Yeah.
Look what he says. Verse 3. Yeshua answered him. In other words, Yeshua was impressed with the fact you gave me the title rabbi, because I'm not defined by my title.
Yeah.
You see, you can call me rabbi, you can call me pastor, you can call me Brian, that's okay. Even if you say Brian out of disrespect and not recognize in the synagogue that I'm a rabbi, or in the church I'm a pastor, or even to this congregation I'm a shepherd. You can do it in disrespect. I have people that will purposely say, well, you know I'm not supposed to call you rabbi. I said, show me that verse again. And they quote it, but they actually misquote it, because it never says you can't call any man on earth a rabbi. It says don't call any man on earth father.
Right.
I call my father father all the time.
Right.
And in fact, I call him daddy.
Yep.
Yeah, Abba. Because Timothy called Paul daddy, father, Abba, spiritual father.
Yep.
It's a spiritual Abba. That's what rabbis are. They're a spiritual father to their spiritual students and children. So it never does say tell the disciples they can't call each other rabbi. It's just saying don't be wanting to be called rabbi in the marketplace as the Pharisees do. Why? Because you're not rabbis yet. You're students. You're not teachers yet.
Right.
Go back and read the text in Matthew chapter 23. You'll see it for yourself. Now look, this is what Yeshua said. I'm not impressed by the title you gave me. I know who I am. I know the miracles that I do come from him because I come from my Father.
Right.
But this is what I need you to realize. As smart as you are, you're not really that smart.
Yeah.
Watch this. Yeshua answered him, amen, amen, I tell you, truly, truly, unless one is born from, he told Israel, you're to be above and not beneath. So the one who is from above came down and saved us. He says, you must be born from... Now, I know your version might say born again, but that's not what it says in the Greek. It's born from above. Born from heaven. Born from above. He says, unless one is born from above, he cannot see the kingdom of heaven, because you can't see the kingdom of heaven on earth. Hello? Anybody out there today? You can't see the kingdom of heaven on earth. You have to see the kingdom of heaven in heavenly places. Until you're heavenly minded, you won't see the kingdom. Even if I do a miracle in front of you, you won't see the kingdom, because you'll see Beelzebub. The Pharisees didn't see the kingdom of heaven when he did miracles. They saw Beelzebub, because they couldn't see who he was. because they weren't heavenly minded. They were operating as a victim because they thought they were about to lose their position, because if Messiah is Messiah, he takes over as king, and Rome is out, that means Herod's out, that means we're out. They weren't thinking like victors, like we got the victory because Messiah brings victory, and if he's the Messiah, we got victory. No, they saw it as, no, he's against us. No, the question is, are you against him? So when they were against Messiah, they needed to ridicule him and bring him below instead of bring him above. They wanted to bring him down to a lower level. So what they did was they started questioning his authority. So this is what happens. He says, unless you're born from above, meaning heavenly view, you cannot see the kingdom of God. How can a man be born when he's old? Nicodemus said to him, he cannot enter into his mother's womb a second time and be born, can he? Now, how many of you ever wondered what he meant by that? Can I give you the real answer? In Jewish understanding, a Jew is never born again. Because a Jew is already born a Jew. A Jew is born of the stock of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They don't need to be born again. They need to commit to the covenant that they were born into. Which means commit to the Messiah that their covenant includes in the package. A Jew does not change religion. He has the original one. Everything else is pagan idol worship. He has the original religion. The problem is he needs to accept the reigning king of his religion. The promised Messiah of his Torah and of his prophets. So a Jew does not convert to Christianity.
No, of course not.
A Jew stays a Jew. Born a Jew, die a Jew. But until you're born from above. Watch this. Please understand this. From Jewish understanding, again, I'm not talking about Bible. I'm talking about from Jewish understanding. A Jew does not change religion. This is what was happening. A Gentile would want to come to faith. And what the Jew would say is, well, if you convert to Judaism, meaning deny your pagan life, get immersed in water, pay the fee to worship God at the temple, and be circumcised, obviously was one of the huge prerequisites, then we will say that Abraham is your father also. And you will go in the water, die to your old man. You see where that comes from? And you'll come up out of the water a new man. Born from above, as if God gave you a second chance to no longer be a Gentile, to become a son or daughter of Abraham. So this was the imagery that Christians later used to define what it means to be born again. Die to your old man, your sinful life, come up a new man in Messiah. Right? So this is why Nicodemus asks the question. It's not that Nicodemus was dumb. He wasn't asking a ridiculous question. He was really saying, I'm a Jew. Are you saying that I can go back into my mother's womb and be something that I'm not already? Because he took it in a physical way. Wait a minute, only Gentiles are born again according to our rabbis. They're born again as a Jew when they accept the God of Israel, when they come up out of the water. We're pronouncing them Jewish, and they can call Abraham as Avinu, our father. From that moment on. And their pagan lifestyle is never to be brought up again because it's dead. They died to the old man. This is exactly where Christians get the language from. They died to the old man. This is where Paul got the language from Judaism. They died to the old pagan life, and they resurrected newness of life as a new man of the stock of Israel, of the Commonwealth of Israel. This is how conversion to Judaism worked in Jewish thought, and it's still the same in Jewish writings today in the Talmud and the Mishnah. Now, how do we progress from that? What was Yeshua saying? Yeshua was saying, I'm not talking about the physical, because that which is born of the flesh is flesh. You're talking physical birth. But that which is born of the spirit is spirit. So what he's saying is, just as the baby is born in water, and just as the Gentile is born in the immersion waters, comparing those two models, that when they came out of that water, it was an image of a new womb. That the Gentile came out of the womb. That's why Nicodemus said, do I have to go back into my mother's womb where there was water? When the water broke, the midwife knew the baby was delivered. Just as when the spirit broke, the living water, the Gentile was delivered in his old way of life. So he was saying, in Jewish thought, as a rabbi, you know this, Yeshua. As a rabbi, I personally can't go back into my mother's womb, be physically born again as a Gentile, to then be born again, because only Gentiles get born again.
Right.
Right.
He said, no, you're talking physical. I'm talking spiritual. Because just the way the mother, flesh, births a child, flesh, the Holy Spirit, spirit, births a new believer, spirit. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, but that which is born of the Holy Spirit is your spirit. So your spirit becomes born again, not the physical. He was talking physical, mother's womb. Yeshua was talking spiritual. He was saying, in the heart of the Jew is an unsaved soul without accepting God's sovereign rule and reign. And Pharisees at that time began to take the authority upon themselves and forget that Messiah was coming and needed to convert or bring a outpouring of the Holy Spirit or a change in spirit in the nation of Israel, because they were trying to conform Israel to a political and religious reformation. But Yeshua says, my kingdom is not of this political and religious realm. It's of a spiritual heavenly source, and you must be born from above, because none of you have reached that level of aboveness yet.
Right.
You're still thinking like you're from the earth.
Amen.
You're still thinking human. In fact, you brought up physical birth. I'm talking spiritual birth.
Yes.
Are you getting that?
Yes.
What a beautiful picture. Even relates to how Jews still think, though. So if you're born from above, which we call being born again, look what John also wrote in his epistle, 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God. What is it? The love of God, that we keep his commandments. Wait. Are you talking about that stuff Moses was talking about, the commandments? I thought we're not under the law anymore. No, that was for the Gentile. The Gentile was told you're not under the law, referring to Pharisaical restrictions of circumcision of the flesh, as long as you're circumcised in the heart. But you are under the Sinai covenant. Mixed multitude, as many as the Lord will call, Jew and Gentile alike, are still hearing the same voice of Sinai. Thou shalt not. You shall. You're still hearing those words. It's still a sin. To disobey your parents, it's still a sin. To dishonor God's name or to not take it as holy, it's still a sin. To actually not honor his Shabbat, it's still a sin. Sadly enough, the Christian world doesn't know about the Shabbat, so they don't keep it. Because they think Sunday became Shabbat. In their mind, they're keeping it, but they're really not. But forget the physical day, or they keep the spirit of it either. You have to really accept the spirit of Shabbat before you can understand the letter of it. So it says, it's love for God to keep his commandments. And his commandments are not burdensome. The Torah is not a burden. Listen, Christian world, Gentile nations, it's not a burden to study Torah. It's not a burden to learn Torah. It's not a burden to keep Torah. Unless you're doing it from the flesh.
Right.
If you do it in the spirit, it's a love for God that makes you keep his commandments. Because to love God and to keep his commandments, that represents the whole Torah. Amen. To love God with all your heart, soul, and strength, love your neighbor as yourself, that's the whole Torah.
Yes.
You're learning it from an aspect of loving God, not out of obligation. He says it's not burdensome. Watch this. For everyone born of God, born from above, in other words, overcomes the world, and the victory, somebody say victory. And the victory that has overcome the world is this, our faith.
Amen.
So our faith is what overcomes the world. Our faith that God will defeat the Goliath. Our faith that God will defeat the Philistines. Our faith that God will give us the promised land. Our faith will make us steadfast and unmovable. Our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? If it's not the one who believes in Yeshua, who is Ben Elohim, the Son of God. Now, I added, after this one, I'm going to show you a couple I added here. Look at Romans 8:37. Now that you're born from above, you're born of God, and you have victory, look what it says. But in all these things, and how many things? In all these things, we are more than conquerors. That's because we didn't defeat the enemy, he did. So we're not conquerors, we're more than conquerors. It means we're on the winning side because we have a conqueror in the land. See, when David killed his tens of thousands, Israel became more than conquerors.
Yes.
Because David conquered, but Israel became more than conquerors. Because we get his victory.
Amen.
We're super victorious. more than conquerors through him who loved us. Why? Because this is the love of God, to keep his commands. And if you love God and keep his commands, he'll give you victory. That's what he said. For I'm convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels nor principalities, we could throw in there, nor giants, right? Nor Philistines, nor these present things or things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Messiah Yeshua, our Lord. Now, I think here's the next one I'll give you. Right, 1 Corinthians 15:54. I'm done. Watch this. But when this corruptible will put on incorruptibility in this old flesh, and this mortal, this old body, has put on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written in Hosea, death is swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? Literally the grave. Now the sting of death is sin, but the power of sin is the Torah. Wait, what does it mean by that? You wouldn't have known what sin was if it wasn't for the Torah.
Right.
So Torah pointed out the sin, which gave it its power.
Yes.
Because the enemy does things secretly until you point it out.
Right.
So when the Torah revealed sin, it's what's identified sin's power over your life. And once you identify that power that's been over your life to make you a victim, and you finally realize it has a limitation because its power is limited, then you realize your God has more power.
Amen.
And he has power over the enemy's power. And he gave you all power in heaven and earth, right? Through Yeshua. And over all the power of the enemy. And nothing shall by any means harm you.
That's right.
So how are you going to be a victim if nothing can harm you? Oh, the devil tried to harm you. No, the devil doesn't do anything. He has no power. He's a lion that roars with no teeth. He's been plucked, stripped of his power. He doesn't end there. He goes on to say, in verse 57, but thanks be to God. Thanks to who? God. Thanks be to God who keeps giving us. Wait a minute. Who keeps giving us what? Victory through our Lord Yeshua the Messiah. Therefore, my dearly beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always excelling, King James says, abounding in the work of the Lord. Meaning nothing's going to stop you because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Now, these are I added one extra verse here. Watch this. In 2 Corinthians 2:14, he says something very similar. Now he says, thanks be to God again, doesn't he? Thanks be to God who in Messiah always leads us into triumphal procession. The voice reads it this way, who always marches us to victory under the banner of the Anointed One.
Amen.
And through us reveals everywhere the aroma of the knowledge of himself. You know what this was about? The Roman procession. When you had the victor, the king would be so proud of his victorious victor that they'd march him through the city and let everybody say, look at the victor! He's won the victory for us! Like God the Father did with Yeshua. And the emperor would say, look, this is our victor! And they would burn to the gods a sweet-smelling aroma that would go up high above.
Yes.
And would let everybody know when they smelled the scent of that above aroma, that above smell, they knew victory was in the camp.
Yes.
They knew victory was in the kingdom. So you know what happens when we worship? That aroma begins to go up above to remind us we have a victor. His name is Yeshua the Messiah. We have a conqueror. His name is Messiah. And when Messiah conquered, he conquered for you, making you more than conquerors. So therefore, he takes us in a procession, like we do with the Torah, all around us saying, we've got the victory. We've got the victory. And they would be shouting and praising and dancing in the streets. You see, you don't dance unless you got freedom from your enemy. When you've been delivered, you praise him. Because the dance and the praise comes from the fact you know you got the victory. Oh man. Now, I've got one last verse I added here. Watch this. I added this one. Colossians 3:2. It says, focus your mind on things what? Above. And not on things of the earth. Let me give you the points to fill in today. Number one, fill in Victims die in a wilderness of what? Worry, doubt, blame, excuses, or denial, because they don't trust the Lord to lead them. They don't trust who? They don't trust the Lord to lead them. The opposite of that is number 2. Victors live in God's promises. Refuse to worry, doubt, blame, make excuses, or live in denial, because they trust the Lord to lead them. We can do this today because point number 3 brings us to Yeshua. Messiah's victory frees us from being a victim and makes us an overcoming victor who is more than a conqueror. How many know that they're more than conquerors today? Would you stand to your feet if you believe it and give God a shout of praise? If you believe today He's been conquering some things in your life all day, come on, give God a real shout of praise that you know He's got the victory today. Martin, would you come? And He's going to say the blessing today, the Aaronic benediction of number 624 through 26. Stretch your hands towards heaven and receive this blessing over your life today.
Let's feel confident and with boldness to accept these words that are pronounced upon you. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Yair Adonai panav elecha v'huneka Yisa Adonai Hanav elecha Yasem lecha Shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord lift up His countenance towards you and be gracious to you. May the Lord illuminate His face and establish peace for you from the Prince of Peace, the conquering King, Ben David, Yeshua the Messiah. Amen.
Praise the Lord. Shavua Tov.